Grandfather started the business. We were originally a Suffolk farming lot from Tunstall and Campsie Ash area, and just after the 1800s, and enticed up to Norfolk by the Gurney family, and they were at Hempstead Hall, south of Holt, and the son then took over the farm at Northrips, Church Farm at Northrips, and they produced between them 19 children. And 19 children couldn't go into the farm, so grandfather, who was number 14, somehow decided to do pharmacy. And at that time, his mother, who was a widow, because after the 19 children, the father got gored by a bull and died, although the mother was still of childbearing age, so there could have been 20 or more. But he was paid, as it was in those days. His mother paid for his apprenticeship at a chemist in Yarmouth, and we got the full indenture there, what he must do and where he mustn't go into houses of ill repute. And she had to pay for his apprenticeship for the 3 years. He then became a chemist in Cromer on Church Street, and he was manager of Hall's Chemist on Church Street, sort of 2 doors from the church. And at some stage, he departed there, moved 200 yards up the road and started his own pharmacy. And at that time, he was a bit of an empire builder, because he then took over the shop in North Walsham in 1906. And October this year, in fact, is the 100th year coming up. And overnight, from the North Walsham one, he changed from being a chemist to being a chemist optician. I've got no record anywhere of any training whatsoever. I think he just read a book and started, which was the way in those days. His son, who went to Parston and rather did much better than me, he became school captain somewhere about 1925. He qualified in the early 30s, met my mother at South London Pharmacy College, and took over the North Walsham shop. And so when I came up to wondering what I would do, I decided I was going to go to pharmacy as well. I went back to London, to School of Pharmacy at Chelsea, and came back and joined father in 1958 to do my apprenticeship, partly with him and partly with the Norfolk Norwich Hospital. And then, of course, I decided that I would be like grandfather, a chemist optician. Now, he had died when I was 1 year old, so there was no real continuity there. And I was very disillusioned at that time with the pharmacy training I'd got, which was wonderfully old-fashioned. It was all on plant medicine. I knew in the shop we were getting all these newfangled drugs, and we had no schooling on that whatsoever. So decided I'd go in for optics, asked for an extension of my deferment, which the War Office said, certainly not. You've got to go in to do your 2 years. And when I came back from there, I went back to college, where I met my wife, went to the Northampton College, now the City University of London, and qualified. And Dillis had one thing: you're going to marry me, you're going to come to North Walsham. I never got any other thought of that. Came back in '65, started the practice. For 7 years, I just had one room at the back of father's pharmacy and worked it up from absolute zero. And then as father was getting near retirement, I had to look for somewhere else, so I bought the house on Grammar School Road, only because Nigel Hedge told me that it would be suitable to have a house and a practice within the one building, somewhere close to the centre, and it worked very well. So we were 10 years there, till we greatly outgrew that, and the business was getting much too busy. We moved up to New Road, where we've been ever since. My son now, 4th generation, and it's still thriving quite nicely. And it's moved on from a shoestring thing which I started at, which you just couldn't imagine now, but it was the general rule. I wasn't out of step with anybody, whether in Norwich, Yarmouth or Aylsham. And at that time, you still had a great number of towns who relied on the chemist optician. A thing that does not happen now. I think in a census about 1970, I was one of the 3 youngest chemist opticians in the country, and I don't think anybody has followed us since then, probably with good reason. But as far as the shop is concerned, the changes there are just phenomenal, because I remember the old dispensary where you had several hundreds, if not thousands, of items on the shelves where you made up all your own medicines. And it was most of your job, making up individual mixtures, usually in the sort of half-gallon, the 80 fluid ounce bottles. And I know we did some for some of the local doctors who were doing a little bit of their own dispensing just for sort of patients that they visited. And one doctor in Stallenby, he was with us every fortnight, and he always had, I think, 5 Winchester quarts of mixtures. I'm trying to remember exactly what they were, but I think one was a sort of magnesium trisilicate just to settle the stomach. But the other ones, I think he had something to make you run, something to stop you running, something to pep you up, or something to calm you down. And I think the rhubarb to make you run, the kaolin morphine to stop you running. I can't think at the moment what the other two were. But that was quite a large piece, and I've recently just decided to do a talk on single-dose medicines. And I'm having to sort of conjure up things from the kitchen as to what I can ape them with, because I can't get any of the ingredients which I would like to have got to really make it authentic. But North Walsham itself has changed a great deal. I think when I was a child it was about 4,500 people. We're now probably over 12,000. When I was a kid we probably had about 8 or 10 separate grocery shops. You probably had 8 butchers. You certainly had 3 bakers. You had about 6 places where you could get gentlemen's clothing. I don't think there's one now. And the grocers are really very much a fading thing, almost disappeared. You also had a lot of your ironmongery. And there were 3 shops very busy in Marketplace and in Market Street. And now, of course, you're looking to the outskirts of the town, and you can't, in many instances, just go and get the 1 or 2 odd items which the person in the brown overall always knew where to get from a shelf high up, which he got up to by a ladder or step ladders. Pharmacy ceased, as far as the family is concerned, when Father retired in '74, taken over by Neville Wharton. Still remains a pharmacy, and it's been a pharmacy for something over 200 years. That shop has always been so.